In today's news, Foodpanda faces a boycott after saying it would fire a rider who attended a recent protest rally. Meanwhile, on the COVID front, the CCSA throws out a worst-case scenario of 32,000 cases a day over the next 3 months, though that scenario may be prevented as Thailand looks at trialing a new local COVID vaccine. Details on these stories coming right up. สวัสดีครับ You're watching Thailand News Today, bringing you the latest top stories in Thailand. Before we begin, a quick announcement to join the conversation with Thaiger Talk. It's a new comment section for the Thaiger website and provides a lot of new topics and opportunities for you to participate in the news and just about everything related to life in Thailand. Just click Thaiger Talk under any article and you can join the Thaiger Talk conversation. All right, on to the news. Delivery service Foodpanda is facing a public backlash and calls for a boycott after they said they plan to fire a rider who they branded a terrorist. Yesterday, the same rider was arrested in Pathum Thani, which is a central province near Bangkok, on lèse majesté charges, arson and violation of the emergency decree's ban on gatherings after attending last Sunday's anti-government protests in Bangkok. The rider has been identified as 25-year-old Siti Cho. He is looking down the barrel of 15 years in prison if he is convicted under Section 112 of the Penal Code. He was allegedly filmed pouring petrol on the base of a portrait of the king and then lighting it on fire. Foodpanda had apologized for its earlier message, which said that the rider would be fired immediately. The company even released a statement saying it is not company policy to stop employees from expressing their opinions. They also retracted their accusation that the rider's actions were that of a terrorist. The public statement read, "We deeply apologize for upsetting and disappointing you over the incident. We will do our best to regain your trust in Foodpanda." 16 other protesters have been arrested for violating the state of emergency, 4 of whom are minors. Aviation, the largest shareholder in Thai AirAsia, says the latest partial lockdown is critically threatening their financial status, with no government aid on the horizon or even being discussed. The TAA executive chairman says the industry has been limping along without any help for over a year now and cryptically pondered how the government expects to collect tax once large businesses collapse. He said that TAA's liquidity is in a state of emergency, with the airline having to borrow even more funds in order to pay salaries this month. The airline is currently undergoing a restructuring process, with new investors providing a loan of 3.5 billion baht, but the process is facing delays as further talks with authorities became necessary and the future seems even more difficult to predict. Meanwhile, the carrier, along with all other domestic airlines, is suspending all domestic flights. The only airline that may continue some flights servicing the Samui Plus and Phuket Sandbox project is Bangkok Airways. Empty or unused school buildings across Thailand are to be converted into field hospitals as COVID-19 cases surge and the hospital bed crisis continues. The Office of the Basic Education Commission has issued an order for all unused buildings to be repurposed as makeshift field hospitals to increase the number of treatment facilities available. With hospitals in COVID-19 hotspots struggling to accommodate patients, even existing field hospitals used for patients with only mild symptoms are running out of beds. Education bosses have been asked to report back to OBEC on their progress in converting empty school buildings into treatment facilities.
It's time to join the conversation. Thaiger Talk is our forum where you can share your thoughts and comments about all the news stories, as well as just about anything happening in Thailand. Just scroll down under any Thaiger story, click on Thaiger Talk, register, and you're in. It's time to join Thailand's fastest growing forum. So jump in and be part of the Thaiger Talk conversation.
The CCSA, referencing research by a professor from Mahidol University, says that it is possible, in a worst-case scenario, that COVID infections could hit 32,000 people a day in Thailand over the next 3 months. The research uses data as current as July the 17th and speculates that if the handling of the situation is not improved, the daily infection rate could hit about 31,977 in the fourth quarter of this year. Best case scenario, 9,018 to 12,605 cases a day. The predicted average sits around 10 to 24,000 cases a day. In all cases, the situation is rather bleak for provinces wanting to reopen their shops and people wanting to get back to something near normal. Dr. Tui Sin from the CCSA is urging all residents of Thailand to cooperate with the latest measures that take effect today. The doctor emphasized the staying-at-home recommendation for people in dark red zones. He empathized with the inconvenience that may arise because of this measure, but asked people to please stay at home unless it is necessary to go out. Thailand's daily infections have topped 11,000 cases a day for the past 3 days. Well, some potentially good news in the sea of gloomy stories as of late. The government has announced that a new locally developed COVID vaccine may be ready for production as early as the next couple of weeks. The new vaccine, called the subunit vaccine, comes from plant protein and uses the same technology as the Novavax COVID vaccine. Novavax, as reported back in March, has previously been shown to be 100% effective at preventing serious illnesses, hospitalization, or death from the virus. Well, that's according to the firm that produces it. The Thai vaccine has been developed by a Thai startup, Phytopharm. The subunit vaccine provides one or more antigens to the immune system, minus the introduction of pathogen particles, whole or non-whole. Some words you can throw out at your next cocktail party. Baya plans to submit the proper documentation to FDA to get an inspection of their factory. Following that, if the factory inspection goes well, they hope to begin vaccine production over the next few weeks. Human testing for the subunit vaccine would begin in September of 2021. The company's research team is seeking about 100 human volunteers for August. They must be in good health and between the ages of 18 to 55 and 65 to 75. Police have re-detained all 4 inmates who broke out of the Phetchabun Provincial Prison early yesterday morning. The inmates, all facing drug charges, escaped from the prison in the province north of Bangkok. The escapees did not get too far and were all found within the district late yesterday. The first was rounded up at the local Phetchabun school early yesterday. Then later in the afternoon, the other 3 were found in a furniture shop and in a shelter behind the Pecharat Hospital. And that's all for the program today, but if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the Thaiger's YouTube channel to stay up to date with the latest news. Hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and สวัสดีครับ